Hi everyone, it's Ren here. Good to see you guys. I welcome you to my room. I hope the mood is good and that you're ready for a fourth episode of the Practical INFJ podcast with myself, but also with you guys. Don't forget that if you want to get this state-of-the-art book on the INFJ personality, you can find the links in the description box down below to all the Amazon websites, most in-depth investigation of the INFJ consciousness. If you want to go deeper, this is the golden path to getting there. Less than $10 ebook paperback format. Okay, so how to be stylish. It might be something unexpected from me because it sounds on the surface like almost like an extroverted thing, or maybe not so much an extroverted thing, but a sensor thing, or a type 3 Enneagram kind of thing, where someone would care about aesthetics. So it might seem on the surface to be incongruous, with the personality of the INFJ type. But someone said in a comment recently, and I say hello to them. I think they watch a fair few of my videos, so they might see this one. They asked me, how do I manage to always be stylish? That made me smile, because I don't consider myself to be a stylish person. And yet, I reflected on the whole topic later on, and then came to a number of conclusions. Now, I have not come to the conclusion that I am, after all, stylish. But I do believe that INFJs, insofar as it's possible, should strive towards having a certain sense of style. And I do mean, in this sense, an aesthetic sense of style, not an intellectual sense of style, really something aesthetic. So we have an inferior SE function, and we all know that. We're not really completely in touch with it because it's mostly unconscious. We know that. Now, one of the consequences of this is that when it comes to style, as is typically understood as having a good fashion sense, you sort of need to have an awareness not only of how colors fit together and what looks good on you, but also what's fitting with the current era that you're living in. So really, that's just a way of saying that we INFJs will never be able to compete with proficient SE users. For example, my mom is an SE auxiliary user, and she has FISE. She's an ISFP, and she has a tremendous fashion sense. Now, I very often ask her for advice about what would suit me and what would not suit me, because even though she's a bit older now, she still has this impeccable fashion sense. So it's certainly not a question of whether or not I'll ever be able to compete with my mum on that front, and it's not something that I'm interested in personally. But there's a difference, you see, between having a good fashion sense, so that sense of style as a fashion sense, and then the sense of style as somehow coming across in such a way that it expresses your unique personality, expresses what you like and how you like to portray yourself. I don't think you need to be a particularly individualistic type 4-ish type INFJ to care about that. I think that the way you come across to other people, and that might be the FE and me speaking, matters. It matters not just for them, but for you, what you project. What you project physically, aesthetically, and in your mind. Because what thoughts you have and what you try to do with your thoughts and with your mind is always something that is communicated ultimately to other people, whether it be abstract or on the internet in discussions that are of a cerebral nature or of a psychological nature, or everyday conversations. You come across a certain way, and as an INFJ FE user, you're aware of this, and this is important. You also come across a certain way by the style of dress you have, by what you look like, the way you look. And so I think it's important that you take a moment to consider, what do I like? It's not about wear this, wear that. That's definitely not the kind of video I'm going to make. But if there's a certain kind of dress style that you like, maybe you don't dare to go for it because maybe you're evasive, because you think it wouldn't suit you, or you're afraid of getting negative comments. It'd be a very liberating experience if you could just get over that and dress like that anyway. It's liberating because it's more a sense of being your authentic self in every sense. The way you look is something that you experience. You see, it's not so much about the superficial sense of looking a certain way. It's about experiencing. Experiencing is an existential condition that is constant, right? Even in sleep, you experience dreams. So experience is really the domain of, that my book explores. You experience other things. You experience the contents of your mind. You experience other people. You experience theories, life, jobs. All these things matter tremendously. You experience your own appearance a lot. So it's important to have an authentic relationship to this experience also. Having an authentic relationship to this experience is very intimately linked to the idea of looking like what you want to look like. So it's not so much about looking good, it's about looking authentic to yourself. And this authenticity to yourself and your tastes is not something that is fundamentally selfish. It's about yourself blossoming, your blooming, the blooming of your individuality at all different levels. It's about not letting yourself and your sense of self-worth be defined by conventions and decisions that are made outside of your influence. To take responsibility for everything in your experience. Something very important. And authenticity plays a very big role in this. So I wanted to make this video and stress this point because it might come across, or it might appear on an everyday basis when someone identifies as a man-dominant, as if appearance was something that can be ignored. It's not as important as things of the mind. This is something that, a lot of people might think, and including a younger version of myself. The thing is, if you've read this book, you are probably aware of what I distinguish when I say that there is the category of alienation corresponding to what I call dualism, and the category of enlightenment, which corresponds to monism. Now, in monism, where everything is one, there is a collapse of the distinction between reality and appearance, which harks back to all the way back to Plato, the great alienated genius of the INFJ personality and heritage. Now, if you collapse the appearance versus reality distinction, you also have to collapse the implicit values of value judgments between good things of the mind and bad, or at least indifferent or forgettable things of the body, things of appearance, because the reality, versus appearance distinction has collapsed as a result of monism. So there's a deep philosophical underpinning here, a deep philosophical reason why it's important to take care of defining every bit of yourself, not just your mind, but also your appearance. Because your appearance is actually not really your appearance in the Platonic sense. The way you look and the way your mind is, they're actually ultimately the same thing. So to project something in your mind and something else in your body, in your look, if you like, in your style, is to maintain alienation to a degree. It's to think that your real self is inside your head. Well, that's a protective relationship that you'd be having with yourself. It's this overwhelming concern with protecting an I from the rest of the world, which ultimately leads to the alienation of an I. and to all the challenging existential difficulties that results from it in the way of alienation. So again, this has everything to do with the collapse of the appearance versus reality distinction, which came from Plato. And I'm not joking. There's a link there between this collapse, if you subscribe to that idea, and the collapse of the mind versus body distinction as well. By all means, cultivate your uniqueness. It's very important that you do this. Take pride in who you are and in your possibilities. But to get to that level requires not only the emancipation of your mind, but the emancipation of your sense of style as well. It's not about looking good in the eye of other people. It's looking good in the eyes of yourself. It's easier to just go for something neutral because it doesn't entail risks. But that's a form of evasiveness. Now, give me a like if you enjoyed this video. Consider consider subscribing as well. Drop me a comment and let me know what you think, if you thought this was useful and if was at least food for thought. And I will see you soon, guys. Bye-bye.